Welcome back to the deep dive. When we talk about critical skills for navigating the modern world, we often think data analysis, maybe coding. But what if I told you there's this like ancient discipline refined over millennia that can fundamentally reshape how you think, how you build an argument, how you cut through all that noise? It's not some abstract academic thing. It's a powerhouse tool. It's logic.
Mm.
That's right. Our exploration today, this deep dive, is all about the art and utility of logic. We're
Hmm.
going to try and demystify what logic actually is, maybe trace its pretty captivating journey through history, and most importantly, reveal concrete ways you can harness its power. Bring remarkable clarity to your own understanding and communication, make you a more incisive thinker.
Yeah, and this couldn't be more timely, really. I mean, we're just bombarded constantly with information and misinformation, too. So the ability to tell sound reasoning from, well, flimsy arguments isn't just useful academically. It's kind of a vital survival skill these days. We're going to equip you with insights, hopefully, to navigate that endless stream of data you face every day, help you become a much more discerning evaluator of truth claims.
Okay, let's dive in then. When many of us hear logic, yeah, our minds might go straight to like ancient Greek philosophers, maybe dense math symbols. And yeah, those are definitely part of its rich history. But at its core, logic is simply the systematic study of valid reasoning. Its foundations, as you might guess, stretch way back. Aristotle, right? He's often called the father of the field. He gave us those classic syllogisms. You know the one. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal.
Right, that classic example. And what's so compelling even now is just the certainty. If those first two statements, the premises, if they're true, then the conclusion has to be true. It just follows.
You can't really argue with it. It's like a perfect little mental machine.
Exactly. And that foundational idea, this pursuit of certain conclusions, it provides such a solid framework for drawing sound conclusions. But, what's fascinating is that even within logic itself, there's this ongoing, pretty practical debate. You've got the logical monists on one side. They basically think there's one true universal logic,
Mm.
a single system for all correct reasoning. And then on the other side, you have the logical pluralists.
Pluralists. Okay, so what's their view?
Well, they see different logical systems more like different tools in a toolbox. Think
Mhm.
about it, right? You wouldn't use a hammer for a screw or a tiny screwdriver for, I don't know, building a deck. Each tool has its job. Pluralists argue that different logics might be more useful, more appropriate, depending on the context.
Ah, okay. So like using different logic for a legal argument versus maybe a social issue.
Precisely. For a legal case, you might want that rigid, formal logic. Every premise needs explicit proof. But for a complex social problem, something with nuance, ambiguity, maybe human emotion, perhaps a different kind of logic, one that handles degrees of truth, might give you, well, better insights. It's not just about having different tools, it's about picking the right lens for the problem. It helps you ask, what kind of certainty am I actually aiming for here?
That toolbox analogy really helps clarify it. Okay, so we have these foundational ideas. How did they actually evolve? You mentioned Aristotelian logic. That was primarily predicate focused, right?
Yes, predicate focus. Think dissecting sentences. Socrates' subject is mortal predicate.
Yeah.
It was all about classifying things, using terms like all, some, none to show relationships between categories. All A or B, some C aren't D, that sort of thing.
Immensely powerful for its time, I imagine. Great for sorting out the natural world.
Definitely. But it did struggle a bit with arguments based on the connections between whole statements. And that's where Stoic logic came in. It developed kind of in parallel, but focused more on propositions, complete statements, and how they link up.
Propositions, like if dot then.
Exactly. The classic Stoic example is modus ponens. If P, then Q, P, therefore Q. So if it's raining, the ground is wet. It is raining, therefore the ground is wet. See, it's raining is P, the ground is wet is Q. Stoic logic analyzed how these whole sentences connect using words like if, then, and, or. These two systems, Aristotelian and Stoic, hugely influential, but they stayed mostly separate for centuries, like two rivers running side by side.
Okay, two separate streams. So when did they finally merge? This sounds like a key moment.
It really was. That brings us to 1879 and a figure named Gottlob Frege. Frege was this German philosopher, mathematician, a real genius. He's the one who unified these different approaches into what we now call modern formal logic.
He built a bridge between philosophy and math.
You could say that, yeah. His huge contribution was creating a formal system where the structure of an argument, not just its content, determines if it's valid. He gave us a symbolic language, almost like math notation, to represent logical statements and how they relate.
Wow. So that allowed for much more rigor.
Unprecedented rigor and precision. It really set the stage for, well, so much that followed. Foundations of mathematics, even the dawn of computing, a massive intellectual leap.
Okay, so we've gone from Aristotle through the Stoics to Frige's unification. Fascinating history. But let's bring it back to today. For most of us listening, the big question is, okay, how does this help me? Because like we said, this isn't just for academics. Where's the practical power for everyday life?
Absolutely. And the power really comes in its practical application. It's about achieving clarity. Logic helps you break down everyday language, everyday arguments into clear premises and conclusions. That skill alone is incredibly valuable.
Right, taking messy, real-world arguments and giving them structure.
Exactly. Think about a vague statement you might hear, like, God must exist because the universe began. Without logic, it's just kind of hanging there.
Yeah.
But logic lets us structure it. Premise 1. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. That's an assumption, a premise. Premise 2. The universe began to exist. Another premise, one cosmologists debate. Conclusion. Therefore, the universe has a cause.
Okay, seeing it laid out like that makes a big difference.
It really does. It forces clarity.
Yeah.
Right? No hiding in vague language. It helps you spot the underlying assumptions, like that first premise, which is crucial but not always stated outright. And it just strengthens any discussion because you see the argument's skeleton. You see its strong points, its weak points.
So you can test the pieces individually.
Precisely. It turns a big claim into testable parts. You build the argument brick by brick. And if someone disagrees with the premise, say, does everything that begins need a cause? Well, logic helps you focus the debate right there instead of just talking past each other.
That makes a lot of sense. And speaking of clarity, you mentioned Frege earlier. Didn't he have another idea that helps with the precision of language itself? Something about sense and reference.
Ah, yes. Frege's distinction between sense and reference. This is another really powerful tool for untangling confusion caused by language.
Yeah.
Basically, reference is the actual thing out there in the world we're talking about. Sense is how we're thinking about it or how we identify it.
Okay, how does that work in practice?
Well, the classic example is Hesperus and Phosphorus.
Hmm.
Ancient astronomers thought these were two different stars. Hesperus, the evening star. Phosphorus, the morning star, appeared at different times.
Right.
But eventually they figured out, they're both actually the planet Venus. So Hesperus and Phosphorus have the same reference, the planet Venus. But they have different senses. One sense relates to evening, the other to morning.
Got it. Same thing. Different ways of describing or identifying it.
Exactly. And this distinction is super helpful in philosophy and maybe even science, where language can create these illusions of difference.
Mm-hmm.
Take the whole mind versus nervous system debate. Are they totally separate things? Using Frege's idea, we can ask, are mind and nervous system actually different references, different entities? Or are they maybe different senses, different ways we conceptualize or talk about the same underlying biological reality?
Ah, so it helps clarify if we're arguing about words or about actual things.
Precisely. It can dissolve apparent contradictions, guide research, and just stop us getting stuck in linguistic mud. Are we talking about different things or just different ways about the same thing?
And again, that feels incredibly relevant for everyday communication. If you understand this, you can be much clearer. Avoid misunderstandings. Imagine sorting out arguments just by asking, okay, wait, when you say X, are we referring to the same thing? It could cut through so much confusion.
It really could. It's like having a sharper lens for your own language and for understanding others.
Okay, so logic clarifies, it structures arguments, it sharpens language. Now, for maybe the most exciting bit, becoming a fallacy detective. How does learning formal logic make you, the listener, better at spotting flawed reasoning? This sounds like a superpower.
It kind of feels like one sometimes.
Yeah.
It really does help you identify when an argument goes off the rails, when the conclusion just doesn't follow, even if it sounds convincing at first. Formal logic gives you the tools to spot common errors, like affirming the consequent.
Affirming the consequent. Okay, break that down.
Let's use a simple one first. If it's raining, I'll get wet. I am wet, therefore it must be raining. Sounds plausible maybe, but it's faulty. Why?
Because you could be wet for other reasons.
Exactly. Shower, spilled drink, water balloon fight.
Yeah.
You name it. Being wet doesn't prove it's raining. Rain would make you wet if P, then Q. But being wet, Q doesn't guarantee rain.
Right, okay. So how does that play out in more complex situations?
Well, think about an economic argument. If we lower interest rates, the economy grows. The economy's growing right now. Therefore, it must be because we lowered interest rates.
Ah, I see. The growth could be from other factors.
Tons of other factors. Innovation, consumer confidence, global trade. Low rates might contribute, But the growth itself doesn't affirm that low rates are the sole or even primary cause. Spotting this fallacy lets you push back and say, okay, where's the evidence of direct causation? Not just correlation or this faulty inference. It really empowers you to dissect not just what's said, but how it's reasoned. You spot those sneaky, persuasive, but illogical jumps.
And that is just a huge practical advantage. Once you start seeing these patterns, wow, you really can evaluate arguments much more critically. News reports, politics, ads, even just chats with friends, it helps you make better decisions, hold people, including yourself, to a higher standard. It's like an intellectual shield against bad arguments.
That's a great way to put it, an intellectual shield.
So let's kind of wrap up this deep dive. The core message seems to be that even just a little time spent understanding logic's principles can genuinely revolutionize your thinking. It sharpens clarity, exposes flaws, strengthens communication. It's like a major upgrade for your brain's operating system.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Logic isn't just some dusty old subject. Its enduring power and usefulness make it one of philosophy's most robust tools, directly applicable to, well, navigating your life today. From evaluating scientific claims to making personal choices, sound reasoning is your guide.
Okay, so to leave our listeners with something to chew on.
Yeah, here's a thought. Considering everything we've touched on today, from those different logical lenses to the tricky nature of fallacies, what everyday argument, maybe a news headline you saw, or even a personal decision you're mulling over, how will you approach it differently now? How might this sharper way of thinking ripple outwards into your daily life, into your choices, helping you not just understand the world, but engage with it more effectively?